people that don't know me, my name's Chris Shaw. Over COVID, we started a nonprofit called Move Your Music Forward. We're working to empower songwriters to take their craft to the next level. We're also working with different underserved communities, including senior citizens. We're writing songs with them right now. And my dad, Jim, is involved heavily with that, and he is very helpful with that element. We are on part 4 of our series that we are calling Road Ready, talking to working musicians in the field about their experiences on the road and talking other things as well. We worked with a guy named Blaine Dillinger who plays in a reggae band called Hyrie, Jeff Martin, who's a drummer for an artist, Trevor Hall. We did a regional panel with Joey H., Roger Phelps, and my brother, actually, Andy Shaw. He filled in for my friend Mark Hunter that was not able to be there. I'm going to tell people, if they don't know about Mary Gauthier, she's a Grammy-nominated artist for Best Folk Record in 2019 for her album Rifles and Rosary Beads, co-written with military veterans and their families. We'll chat more about this. You began your career as a chef and owned your own restaurant in Louisiana. Songs covered by Tim McGraw, Blake Shelton, Jimmy Buffett, Boy George. Wow, that's very cool. Welcome to this, and thank you for doing it. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. I'm sorry I did the time zone backwards. I've done this before. I'm not good at math. I'm truly a word person. Sorry again, but I'm here now, and I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to talking to you about all this stuff that is the business of music. It's so layered, and it's got so much to it. It really the number of hats most musicians wear is astonishing to people who don't know what we actually do.
So my first question is kind of a little off left hand, but how has being a chef informed your career and your songwriting?
Well, the thing that was most helpful to me as a musician was not actually being a chef, but owning a restaurant, being a business owner, being the one who ran the place. That is something that most musicians are not prepared to do with their career. We have this sort of childlike mentality that somebody else should run it and we should be the artist. And wow, does that get us into trouble? There is so much trouble if you're not running your career as your business. It's changing. I mean, there's no greater business person than Taylor Swift, and she's modeling what being a CEO looks like, as well as being the artist. But I think I did have a real advantage because I knew how to run businesses when I got into the music business. So I had the language of business. There's two things. There's music, business. And I know a lot of people that are great at the music and bad at the business, so we don't know about their music.
Yeah, that's very accurate to my life. So one of the best workshops I ever took was in Colorado. With the song school is about 4 or 5 days in Lyons, Colorado, and you camp out and you play songs.
Yeah.
And people like Mary. And so I can't remember the title of the workshop, but you were breaking down kind of how to write a sing-along chorus.
Yeah, I was teaching songwriters, if you want people to sing along, here's some tricks.
Yeah.
In the composition. To get people to sing requires more than just asking them to. You have to write a song in such a way that they can sing it. Awful lot of folk singers will write an entire paragraph of complex lyric and then ask people to sing, and they have no recollection of what that lyric was. I mean, the first obvious suggestion, if you want people to sing along, is to be very simple with what you're asking them to remember.
Right. So that's kind of what I got away from it, was like, you're kind of giving this gift to the audience. It becomes not about you. It's for them. So I don't know if you had anything to elaborate on that and just the power of that.
Well, yeah, I think that's my approach as a songwriter in general, is that I write in a way that that allows the audience to get inside the song and own it. And to do that requires an understanding of how that works. How does that work? How do you get people inside your song emotionally so that they own it and say those magic words, Mary, play my song?
Mm.
And, I've spent my whole life figuring out what I need to do as a songwriter to manifest that. And the first thing is I need to be brave. I need to be vulnerable. I need to tell secrets. I need to show something that people resonate with. And so stating the obvious isn't going to get you there. You've got to get into the place where you're telling stories that connect in a way that matters. So you have to write about what matters.
So I guess going a little bit about the road situation, how did you first get on the road? Was it grassroots? Were you picked up by somebody? Did you open? I mean, a lot of musicians have a hard time kind of starting out. Can you tell us a little bit about how you began?
Yeah, I lived in Boston at the time, and I started going to open mics and playing my first songs that I had written at the open mic at Club Passim, and then at the Cantab, and then at Java Joe's Coffee House, and there were a couple other spots in the Boston area where you could play open mics, and started hanging in the community of songwriters in the area. And then I found myself introduced to a woman that once booked a club in Northampton and was married to, and is still married to Chris Smither, the great songwriter. And asked her if she'd mentor me. And she suggested I'd buy her lunch and just pick her brain. I think if you're just getting started, get a mentor and maybe a couple. And ask them, how do you do it? How do I get from playing open mics to an actual gig? And she said, well, draw a little circle around Boston, 60 miles in every direction, and find everywhere you can play 60 miles away, and come back and forth and just play, and don't expect to be paid, just play, and start making connections, and people will hear you and find you. And slowly but surely I worked my way outward and outward and outward, and eventually found myself in New York City. Played I think it was the original version of Rockwood, but they passed a pickup truck, a dump truck around, and that was the tip jar in the back of the dump truck. And everybody made $20 or something, and then I'd drive back to Boston exhausted and go to work the next day. But it started that way, just working myself around 60 miles around Boston and going further and further out. And then eventually, after begging, I found someone who would book me. And once I had someone who would book me, which your first agent is usually not the best agent in the booking world, but it's somebody, that helped me. And then eventually he brought me to a more sophisticated booking agent. And I got on with a company called Keith Case. And Keith booked Guy Clark at the time. His big act at the time was Alison Krauss. He had booked Townes Van Zandt before Townes died. And so he just put me on the road with Guy, and I opened a bunch of shows for Guy for a while, and little shows here and there. But to start, you just got to play. And you just got to play anywhere and everywhere, and I did. And a lot of it is humiliating and difficult, and people don't care, and they're watching the TV and they won't turn the TV off in the bar, or you're playing, an event where people just haven't got a clue that you're a human being and not a jukebox. But you just got to get through all that and get to where you are going to play no matter what. And if they listen, great. If they don't listen, great. I'm doing this. And eventually they will listen, but you got to get through the early stages, which are really quite difficult. And the struggle of it is the amount of indifference you're going to encounter. There's a lot of indifference. We have a fame thing in our culture. Mm-hmm. Until you're famous, people don't care. Right. And that's sad, because there's an awful lot of incredibly wonderful songs and songwriters that aren't being heard because people's indifference. That said, you just got to break through all the walls and do it and do it and do it and do it anywhere and everywhere until somebody gives you a little bit of a break and somebody will let you open for them, whether you're in front of an audience that's listening. Little tidbits of resonance and reassurance go a long way in the beginning.
That's awesome. Can I turn to the audience? These are some friends of mine from we're in Columbus here, so songwriters and musicians. Can somebody ask a question? I'm gonna force them to. Yeah, go on the mic. Go on the mic.
Hi, Mary. My name's Ramona Swabach. How are you?
Hey, good, thanks. I was just in Columbus at Six Strings. Six string, not strings, six string. Yeah,
Well, I'm sorry I missed you.
that's okay.
I've noticed a lot of my co-writers in Nashville, they're starting to write for sync for movies. Is that what is actually happening now anymore? Because a lot of people's moving their direction that way, or because it's so hard anymore if you don't have a publisher to get songs cut by artists anymore. I don't think that's a dream like it used to be. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I'm Nashville, and my stuff is answering it from a Nashville's different than New York. New York is different than LA. The writing for film and television is a particular thing. I don't do it. I have had songs in films and in television, but I wasn't trying for it. So I don't really know the answer to that. That's not my world. There is a high degree of difficulty getting your songs cut by artists now because they all write, because they want to own the publishing. That said, they don't all write, and some who write still record outside songs, but it's gotten harder and harder. That is correct in my understanding. I mean, you would really have a hard time getting songs pitched to music supervisors if you didn't have a publisher to run it through.
Okay.
They don't take outside songs in general. So it's just a very difficult thing if you don't perform. It's quite a challenge to get your songs into a place where they're in a marketplace. It's hard.
Well, I'm trying both ways because I have, I'm a publisher myself. I have my own publishing. So I'm still trying to put songs out there to different artists. So just waiting for that one song, but I'm going to write because I love it. I've learned, I've been to a lot of seminars with Tony Arata, and I'm friends with him and a lot of people. And you just don't want to put all your eggs in one basket for one artist is what I'm learning. Would I stand correct in assuming that as well?
I don't know what that means. You mean
Like just write a song for one specific artist. Just write your song, like with nobody in particular or anybody in mind that you want to cut that song.
Oh, you can't do that because you don't know what's on somebody's heart and in their brain.
Okay.
And, if you're going to sit down and try to write a song that, I don't know, Tim McGraw is going to cut, you can't possibly know what's in his brain. So if you're writing songs that you want other people to cut, you don't know who's going to like that song.
So
There's in this town, nobody writes for one particular artist. They write for the marketplace, and hopefully somebody will like the song.
yeah. Well, I had friends that was doing that, and I wanted to make sure I was correct in telling them, don't write for one particular artist. You just got to put your song out there and see who likes it enough to pick it up.
Yeah, that's the only way to have a shot at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's the weather there in Nashville? I was just there a couple weeks ago.
It's gorgeous. Honeysuckle spring.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for that information. I
You're
appreciate
so welcome. Thank you. Joni, unmute.
I'm not over there, but I'm over here. I would love to hear more what you were talking about of writing being honest, because what I find is, I think that's where I'm writing from, and I'm like some kind of alien. The stuff that's important to me just does not seem to be like people just listen and go, huh, okay. So I'd love to know more about what your experience is with exactly what you were saying of, writing from your place, writing from your honesty.
Well, here's what I know, that we all have very similar concerns, and we all have very similar emotional experiences in life. And if the songwriter is writing from a deeply honest place, it's going to connect. And the deeply personal is universal. There is no other way to the universal. And we can lose our listeners by trying to take on too much. I think the way in is to get very, very, very specific and particular. I think writing about the war is impossible, but you can write through the eyes of a soldier, and that will tell you about the war. If you try to write about the war, you're going to end up telling people what to think or what to feel. I mean, you can write about war, but to write about a war is a different thing. I think that getting extremely specific and using detail is how you get in there. So I can't imagine that if you were vulnerable in your writing and wrote about a very specific experience and used imagery to describe that experience, that it wouldn't connect with people. One of the ways to go wrong is to write about your feelings by naming them. Nobody cares about you're sad. Nobody cares about you're happy. But if you make them feel it, they care, because it becomes their sadness and their happiness. And we don't get people to feel it by saying the name of the feeling and playing a chord. We got to get them there through a little movie and engage in the theater of their mind. They have to visualize themselves inside the song, and that's done through pictures.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody have a question now, or yeah, Ethan, you want to come up?
So I was wondering about playing shows. You said you should play anywhere and everywhere all the time, as much as possible to just get your music heard by people. But the promoters and the bookers around town would say that you should only be playing like 6 times a year locally, and so I guess my idea of dealing with that problem is maybe only doing fewer local shows, but then playing shows outside of regionally more often. Is that the way to go, do you think?
Well, what you want to do is be heard. I still think what Carol taught me was good, to go 60 miles in every direction from Columbus and see where every club or coffee house is that you could possibly play. And so make that drive. That's an hour. Find everyone and make those drives. And so if you only play Columbus itself 6 times a year, that's one thing, but there's places all around where you possibly could play. And often in the beginning, you have to invent gigs. You have to walk into a coffee house and go, music would be great in here. You should let me play here for 2 hours on a Friday night and put out a tip jar. And here's what's going to happen. Most people won't care, but you might pick up a few people that really love your music. And there'll be people who throw a 20 into the bin. And what happens is you start to get better. You're not going to get better at this by wanting to play. You're going to get better playing by playing. And my experience is that the more you play, the more you increase your chances of finding people who like what you do. But even more importantly, you get better at it. So if you play 6 times a year, it's going to take you till you're an old man to get really good at this. I mean, you got to put in your 10,000 hours. And the only way to do it is to do it. It doesn't count playing in your house. You got to play in a room where nobody cares, and find a way to make them care. it's going to make you a better songwriter, and it's going to make you a better performer. And the only way to get really, really good at it is to do it. It's like going to the gym. You're not going to get muscles by looking at the weights or lifting 6 times a year. It's gotta be something that happens on a regular basis, and maybe not in Columbus or whatever town anybody's in. But the 60-mile radius is really helpful. And then maybe 75 miles, and then 90 miles. And start having relationships with promoters in other cities, and relationships with other songwriters in other cities. Another way to do it is to team up with somebody and go, let's go, swap songs somewhere and see if we can get in. I don't know what's near Columbus. I can't remember where we were. Ann Arbor? 3 hours? I mean, work your way out into other places. But my suggestion is to do it as much as you possibly can. If this is what you really want to do with your life, you got to do it. And you got to find a way. Find a way. Find a way. What's that, John Lewis? Find a way. There ain't no way, find a way. And that's what I did. And eventually somebody's in the business is going to see your tenacity, and they're going to say, hey, I want to book that guy. That guy's going to work. We're going to build him because he's a hard worker. You got to make that impression of someone who's determined. Because it's competitive, man. Everybody wants this job. The talent is one thing. Determination trumps talent every time. Because there's a lot of talented people who aren't going to do the work. If you are talented and determined, you're going to stand out, and somebody's going to spot that. They're looking for that.
Also, I was wondering if you had trouble promoting shows and getting people to come out to your shows early on, and what you might suggest to help with just getting people out to these shows,
Yeah, I still have trouble. I mean, that's an endless cycle of struggle and heartache. What do? You hire a publicist. That helps a little bit. You try to get to the radio, see if they'll have you on. That helps a little bit. You push the hell out of it on every social media platform that exists. That helps a little bit. You can buy ads in the paper for listings. That helps a little bit. But nothing is as good as word of mouth. Where people saying, you got to come see this show. You got to come see this guy. And that's done by being so freaking good that people are talking about you. And how do you get that good? Well, by doing it. Word of mouth is the strongest ad. When somebody says, we got to go see this guy. Yeah, but getting butts and seats is so hard. It's just hard. And it's every different level that you're at, it's hard. And now that I'm able to bring a couple of hundred people wherever I play, the struggle is, no, a couple hundred is not good enough. Because you bring 200 people in a 400-seat room, you get 200 empty seats. So, yay, I blew out of the 100-seat room. Yay, I'm at 200. But now I got to figure out how to get to 400. You can't make money at the 400-seat room drawing 200 people because the room costs $6,000 to use. This is every step of the way is nothing but problems. You sure you want to do this? Yeah. It's the best job in the world, but it will eat you up. It's hard.
You mentioned earlier when she was asking a question, you were saying that's not what I do. So I'm always endlessly fascinated, especially in music, with like, what is your job, right? Because like you can cut this thing up many different ways. So and even people talking about I want to be successful, it's like, well, at the song school, one of the greatest pieces of advice I got was probably about 10 years ago with what's Ellis's
Delaney.
Yeah.
Terry.
She said, okay, look 10 years from now. Do you want to be on the road? Do you want to be on the road? Right. In other words, like, no matter where you are, do you want to be traveling? And I was like, wow, that's an amazing, very easy logistical thing. So like, can you kind of speak on that a little bit, and maybe like some of the things that you do that are different than the road, and just I guess speak on that a little bit about like different kind of career paths that you can carve in music.
Well, I don't know a lot about different kind of careers. I've always known I was going to be a troubadour.
Yeah.
And that means got to be on the road. That means leaving. That means a lot of airports, a lot of hotel rooms, a lot of gone. And you know, I wrote a book, and that has helped me to conduct more workshops, so I teach more. And you know, I've got a publishing deal in Nashville, so I spent, when I am home, I'm co-writing. I did a co-write today and yesterday. There's people in Nashville who never ever play shows. They co-write in town, and they hope the songs get recorded, and sometimes they do, and that throws off some money. So that's a different career path than the road. If you want to be a published writer, this is the town to do it in. Getting a publishing deal is never easy, but it's harder than it's ever been. But I you know, somehow managed to get one, and so I write with young people who have record deals, and hopefully I'm helping them move their songs forward. That's one way. But really, my level of expertise and what I do understand and what I do best is travel and play songs for people all over the world, and get in front of whoever is there and give them something that they didn't even know they needed. That's my job. I bring something to them that's valuable, and they pay for it, and go to the next town and do it again. So I don't have a big plan B. I never really wanted one. This is what I've always wanted to do. It was modeled for me in the music scene I came up in Boston. It's what everybody that I want to be like does or did. So many of them are dead now, but you travel and you play. You figure out how to have a family too, but that's always the hard part. If you want to have a normal life, you probably shouldn't be a troubadour, because you're gone a lot.
Yeah. I was gonna kind of pivot to the album Rifles and Rosary Beads. You work with military veterans. Can you tell us a little bit about the writing process, and like just make maybe some of your expectations going in, and like how did it change? Like, were those expectations met? Did you have expectations going in? And...
Yeah, I spent 10 years working with a nonprofit that pairs professional songwriters with wounded veterans. And going in, I imagined it would be, I had a stereotype in my mind of what a veteran was. I didn't know this generation of veterans. I knew Vietnam veterans, but I didn't know any veterans that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, the younger generation. And so in my mind, I had this idea of who I thought they were. And that was immediately dissolved into nothingness from the first minute I walked into my first workshop, because our veterans look exactly like us. They are us. That was a relief. I got along extremely well with all the veterans, and that was a relief. And the process really for me was just sitting down and listening and asking good questions, keeping myself in positive body language, in non-judgment, and taking what I was told and turning it into their song. The job writing with veterans is to keep myself out of it, because I have no experience as a veteran or as someone who's joined the military or seen combat. I do have trauma and trauma experience, but I keep it out of those songs, because it's not my songs, it's their songs. And so what I do is help midwife their story into their song. That's the job. And Songwriting with Soldiers program is still doing great work. I'm not in it anymore, but it's still doing great work. And it's moved forward in a lot of ways. They partnered with the Wounded Warrior program, and they've gotten much bigger, and they do a lot more than they did when I was with them. And the need is there. And so they are a powerful program that has helped a lot of really worthy recipients to help get some of that trauma off their heart.
Anybody have a question? All right, Matt.
Hi, Mary. My
Matt.
name's Morgan. I was just wondering, we're grateful for you sharing all of your experience with us. It's neat to be able to learn from somebody who's had so much experience. Do you have any cautionary tales or funny stories about pitfalls, things that we should watch out for?
Well, about 100 million of them. What's your I guess what's your goal? What are you trying to do with music?
So I've released a couple things already. I've done a little bit of regional touring, just like a week out here or there, mostly in the Midwest and a little bit in the South, trying to get out there and get something going.
What I would suggest is going to some music conferences and seeing who the players are, meaning who are the business people, and get your eye on some people that you want to get a meeting with. You know, you keep your, I don't know about pitfalls as much as here's maybe a way to get some doors open. Figure out who books, what festivals you want to play, you know, figure out who books them. Figure out who's booking the venues that you want to play. Who's the talent buyer. Figure out who's the A&R person at labels you want to be signed to. You got to know these players. They are the ones that have the power of the pen, which is what you need them on board. Somebody's got to help you to get to the next place. Folk Alliance Music Conference is really helpful. I got my first festival, my first agent, and my first manager at Folk Alliance. It's held every year. I think it'll be in Kansas City again next year. It's a good conference to go to. Even if you're not exactly folk music, if you're just a singer-songwriter, it's a good conference to go to. Because you go to the panels and you see who match faces with names. You know, Americana conference here in Nashville. It's a good thing to do. Go to every panel you can and see who books what, who signs who's a publisher, who's a manager, and start to meet the people that can help you move your music into a place that more people are going to hear it. You know, pitfalls. There's going to be people that you think can help you who in the end can't help you. But I don't think you're at that place to worry about that. You're just getting started. You need all the help you can get from anybody who's willing to help you. You know, you can worry about bad record deals once you get to that place where somebody's handing you one. You know, and honestly, you can get a music business lawyer to protect you, and you won't sign a bad record deal. The worst pitfall, I think, is to not take control of your business, and to sort of aimlessly run around and not know what you're aiming for. So figure out some targets that you're aiming for. I want to be on New West, or I want to be booked by High Road Touring. I want to be managed by, I don't know, John Peets or somebody. That you get figure out who's doing things the way that you want to do it and align with them and start knocking on their door. That's what I would suggest. We got to ask for help a lot to get it in this business. You have to show up and ask people to help you. My first publishing deal came because I went to my ASCAP representative and said, make me 6 appointments in Nashville with publishers. And he said, okay. That's what they do. ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, your performing rights organization will make appointments for you with publishers. Ask them to.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yep. Go to your artist representative, say, I want to meet with six publishers, Nashville or New York or LA. And they'll do it. You know, you got to ask for help. And you got to, I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, 11 records, and I still have to ask for help. We got to ask.
Folk Alliance is great. That's kind of where I first heard your name and met a lot of people. So I definitely recommend that to anybody.
Yeah, and you'll get in front of people that can put you on a festival stage. And you'll get in front of people that can be your booking agent. You get in front of people that might manage your career. These places where even South by Southwest, South by Americana, US, Americana, UK, Folk Alliance. These conferences are really helpful. There's another one in France, Midim. It's great for publishers in Europe, and they make big publishing deals at that conference. I went to Midim and learned a lot, and I got publishers in every country instead of having one American publisher try to collect over there. No, go over there and I got a publisher in Germany, a publisher in France, a publisher in Spain, a publisher in Italy. I got a publisher in each country, and they're going to do a much better job than just one publisher over here. And their job as publishers is to help you get your songs recorded. So you want boots on the ground in every country because they're listening for opportunity. And they'll put your song in front of other artists that they publish in that country, or music supervisors and so forth and so on. And learning about all this is really important. And knowing what it is you need to be asking and who you need to be asking is really important.
Thank you so much. Sounds like we've got a lot of work to do.
It never stops.
So I was going to ask you just kind of now, where are you currently, like, as far as your road, touring and all of that? Like, how often are you out? Can you tell us a little bit, speak on where you are currently?
Yeah, well, I've got this publishing deal in Nashville. So I've got many days of co-writes with people I've never met. And just go in a room and throw some ideas out, or if they have one, and see if we can write. So I've got, May, June, July, got a lot of co-writes. And when I'm out, it usually is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, playing shows. I just did Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Ann Arbor this weekend, in fact. And teaching workshops online. I have a Zoom songwriting workshop the weekend of April 28th, 29th, and 30th. And then I have another workshop here in Nashville that's in person in July. I'll be teaching at Song School again at the Rocky Mountain Folks Fest in August, playing Kerrville this year. Gosh, Boston, Northampton, and Vermont coming up in June. Woody Guthrie Folk Festival in July. Preceding that, Memphis. So I'm playing, I'm writing, I'm teaching. I'm developing a show that is a career retrospective, which is really interesting. I'm taking my book and using it as a basis for more of a stage show. The stories from my book connecting songs that give the audience sort of an idea of how I went from where I started to where I am in music and in life. And so I'm calling it right now a career retrospective. I might change it to Saved by a Song, but it's half theater and half music, songs that I've written and stories. And so I'm hired a producer, and I'm gonna have a professional lighting director. I'm gonna incorporate some visual stuff on a screen and see how we do with that. So I'm super busy and really excited about all the things that I'm up to. I just really also like playing, so I'm always going to be booking tour dates and pushing my agents to get me. Like we're working on October right now in Norway and Sweden and Italy and Ireland and Northern Ireland and Denmark. So, just always pushing my agents to get me work too.
Earlier, I asked if there were different career paths. It sounds like you got a couple things going.
So many things. See, I'm an old restaurant business person, man. You got to be able to spin plates on every finger. There is definitely something about this that is still joyful for me. I'm not burnt out. All the things I described, I like doing. actually like writing with young songwriters, even though the songs we write are not songs I'm going to record. But I'm helping them. And I look at it kind of like writing with veterans. You know, if I was writing with these young songwriters and thinking that this was something I was going to record, it would be very hard for me. But I'm trying to write something that they're going to record. So I'm just midwifing and being sort of their assistant and helping. Hey, have you thought of saying it this way or that way or this way? And that's fun. And they teach me. You know, I don't really know a lot about the current crop of songs and songwriters that are on the radio, especially in country music. I find most of it just god awful, but there's some good stuff too. And I find these young writers understand it, and they all want to write well, and I like being a part of it.
That's awesome. Who are your songwriting heroes? Oh
gosh, so many. The obvious ones: Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, John Prine, Leonard Cohen. I always migrate towards the word people. The word people, because I'm primarily a word person myself in the songs. So I like voices that are a little left of center, Neil Young, and people that are singing me words that make me feel something. Lucinda, Steve Earle, Guy Clark, Towns, Butch Hancock, those Texas writers, I love them. There's just a large number of people whose songs have really meant the world to me.
Questions? All right, Jim Shaw.
So I'm Chris's dad. Glad to
I had a
meet
feeling, Mr. Shaw.
And my other son Andy says hi because
Hi, Andy.
he's not here. But anyway, Chris and I have started writing songs with seniors in nursing home.
What a beautiful project.
And I'm just curious, when we start doing it, they basically talk about memories from the past, vacations, trips, just memories. How do you get how does the co-writing thing for you work? What, you just walk in cold and someone says, "Let's write about this"?
No, I'll walk in and I'll ask them about themselves. So if I were going to be in a nursing home environment and sitting with the senior, I would start the conversation with, let's say the senior's, his name is Steve. Hey, Steve, man, do you like music? Is there anybody that you love particularly? Who's your favorites? Any songs still speak to you and touch your heart? Give me some idea of what your taste is. And sometimes they have stuff, and sometimes they're like, just in general, they're not a real fan. So if I get a direction musically of what they like, I'll try to keep that in mind. So when I start finding music for what I'm writing with them, I'll try to make it land for them sonically in that genre. If they like Elvis, I'll try to write in that sort of way, but then ask them about their life, is there anything on your heart? How you doing? Is this place okay? Or are you happy here? Or is this a sad place for you? Do you have friends? Or just build a safety container where a lot of yes body language, and genuinely care about what their answers are, and start writing down what their answers are, and just say, you agreed to write a song with me, so let's make this your song. I'm going to stay out of it. Tell me about your childhood, or tell me about your parents, or do you have a memory that haunts you that you might want to drop into something? And they'll start talking. And when people start talking, you start to see a little bit of what's inside. And inevitably, when I'm writing with the veterans, a title falls out of their mouth. Like every title of all the songs I've ever written with them just fell out of their mouth. Yeah. Like with the title of the record, Rifles and Rosary Beads, I asked a young soldier what he saw when he got off the plane after basic training. He said, well, I saw a lot of guys holding rifles, and some guys were holding rosary beads. I'm like, rifles and rosary beads. Wow. That's beautiful, powerful image. So the titles tend to fall out of their mouth, you know, and say, well, would you like to write a song called Rifles and Rosary Beads? Does that sound like something we could write? You know, and just lots of questions, more than answers. Let them talk. And sometimes you have to wait. Sometimes they weep. It just starts coming and they cry, and that's okay. I'm not a therapist. Sometimes I cry with them, and just let the emotions flow. Don't get thrown, and bear witness, and be there. You know, in a co-write, you almost are a priest, and they're giving you a confession, and so receive it and give it the dignity it deserves. And when you start getting some lines for their song, run it by them. Like, does this sound true? Is this true? Is this how you would say it? And they'll correct you when you steer off, and just they'll guide you if you ask them kindly, with the right body language, to something that means something to them. And people who get a song that reflects their experience for the very first time are astonished by it. They can't believe it, that somebody sees them so clearly. Especially folks in a nursing home, they're not seen at all.
At what point, I mean, how do you handle the actual music part of it? You got
I just keep it simple.
but you do well, that's what we've been doing, keeping it simple. But when you co-write, how does that work? I mean, do you furnish the melody and stuff, or is
Sometimes, but right now when I'm in Nashville in my co-writes, I let them, because they're the ones who are going to sing it.
so they'll
Yeah.
just pick the guitar up and start?
Sometimes I do, but mostly I don't, because I'm not the greatest musician. I'm just going to go to the G, the C, and the D, or the A, the D, and the E, or the F, the C, and the G. It's called a 1-4-5 in the Nashville number system. That's what I do. And so they are almost always better musician than I am. So I let them find their way around melody and to the chorus. I'll help if we get stuck, but for the most part, I let them do it. But in the nursing home situation, obviously, I mean, if someone there says, man, I just love Frank Sinatra, write something, you know, that sounds a little Broadway-ish, a little New York Tin Pan Alley-ish. Write something that sounds familiar to them, you know? Or I love Chuck Berry, or I love Elvis, or I don't know who they love. The job is to get them to talk to you.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we've been doing, but just wanted some hints from you.
Yeah, I don't know any other way, you know? And really, if they start talking to you and you're having a real conversation with them, and then you find the music that reflects the meaning of what they're telling you, the music itself becomes a magnet that pulls more story out of them. And they'll say, oh, yeah, I remember that time. The music itself triggers memory in them.
Right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do we have time for 2 more questions? Is that okay?
Sure.
Hey, Mary.
Hey.
It's Erica Holycross. How are you?
Hey, good.
Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. This is amazing.
Oh, I'm glad it's helpful.
Oh my gosh, I started reading your book. It just right from the first page, I just felt like I wanted to cry. Like, it just
Yeah.
your book, everything just really resonates with me and really touches my heart. So I just want to share that with you.
Thank you.
And what I wanted to ask, just real simply, is because I follow you on some of the social media, and you'll post some different excerpts from books and things, and it's always amazing. And I was just wondering if you have a favorite resource or book that you go to. Do you have a go-to for songwriting or creative writing or whatever it is?
Well, before I wrote my book, I used to tell people to buy this book by Brenda Ueland called If You Want to Write. The book is not about songwriting, but it's about good writing. Brenda Ueland.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you.
This is probably the 30th edition. She wrote it in 52 or something. No, she wrote it in 38. 1938. Everything she said is still relevant and it's still true. It's a great book on writing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, you'll love it.
All right, thank you.
Mary, I just had one more question when it comes to writing. And I don't know if you ever ran into this before. Have you ran into a situation where a publisher or an artist loved your song, but they wanted you to rewrite the lyrics, but yet the co-writer was very adamant not to change the lyrics? So where do you stand? And then you don't like what they rewrote and kind of took the passion out of the song. Did you ever have that situation come up? Or if you did, how did you handle that?
I've had people record my song and change things. But they didn't ask me. They just did it.
Okay.
So I don't care. They're check cashed.
That's how I felt. Okay, good.
I mean, that's one version. I mean, if I am any luck at all, there'll be other versions, including my version. I
Okay.
just want people to record the damn song.
Okay.
If they want to mess it up and take away the chorus after the first verse and put some weird thing, then go ahead. You know, you're messing up the song, but I want you to record it. I just want the songs to be sung and recorded. So I'm not going to go in there and change it, but if they want to, have at it. I still own the song. It's my copyright.
Okay.
They're not I won't agree to that and have them be a co-writer. That's not going to happen. But if they want to mess with it, then, you know, go ahead and record it, because then I have a cut and I want a cut. So great. You know, I'm not that particular about it, because I'll record the version if I love the song that I believe is the highest form of that song.
Okay, great.
I think your co-writer's being stubborn.
I think she is too.
If you got a cut, let them cut it. That's not the only cut on that song you're going to get. If somebody's going to cut it, then somebody else is probably going to cut it. You know, I'm just saying they did that thing, but here's the real song. If somebody else is going to cut it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that advice. So I know what to say now. Thanks.
Just say we want the cut. You know, this isn't how the song goes, but that's how it goes for them. So
yeah, if they want to change it, hey, more power to them.
Don't be precious. Let them cut it.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. Do you have anything else you wanted to add? I mean, I really appreciate your time and just spending this with us, and we're probably gonna put some form of this online, if that's okay with you, on YouTube.
That's great. Yeah, sorry to make y'all wait. When it comes to math, I'm just not so good, and time zones are my worst. I one time screwed up 11 interviews. They had them stacked coming from Europe, and every one of them, there was a chain reaction, and it was my fault. I am bad at time zones, so my apologies. My only thing to sum it up is that persistence and perseverance is the name of the game if you want to be an artist. You just don't quit. You just keep going, and you don't stop, and you keep trying new ways. The way I look at it is there's going to be 10 doors in front of you. You push on 9, they don't budge. The 10th one opens, walk through it. Guess what? You're going to be faced with 10 doors. 9 of them aren't going to open. One of them opens barely, kick it down, walk through it, and there's going to be 10 more doors. That's the music business.
Love that.
You just keep pushing on the doors. Don't let the 9 no's deprive you of the 1 yes.
Can we give her a round of applause? I appreciate that. Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for being here with us, and you know, checks in the mail. I already paid you, but
You prepaid me.
did you get it?
I did. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks,
and
Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.